What's one thing you're always willing to pay the extra price for? One of my buddies would not be here with me today if he was not wearing his helmet. Please people, I know it's more fun to ride your motorcycle without a helmet, but without a helmet you could end up like my friend could have. The helmet saved him from getting his head crushed like a melon. The helmet itself actually split in half, and he had fractures to his skull, but for the most part was okay. I don't get why everyone doesn't understand this. It doesn't matter how expensive or cheap a car is, the tires are the most important part of the vehicle. It's the one thing that contacts the ground, and the one thing that keeps you on the road. Doesn't matter how you drive or what you drive, buy better tires, they'll last longer, you'll be much more confident on the road, and you'll be much happier in all road conditions. The number of times I've seen people say they're scared to drive winter roads, only to see they got the cheapest tires they could find, and their really low tread is terrifying. A good set of the correct tires is night and day in bad road conditions. The exact same car goes from slipping and sliding to staying solidly within the lane at double the speed. Not that you should drive faster, just that it's much better on the road at higher speeds than budget tires. My current car is a plug-in hybrid. It has more fuel-economic tires currently that I've noticed also make them stiffer, lower traction, but great for gas mileage. This fall I'll be picking up a full set of steel rims from a parts yard and be buying myself winter tires to run on my car because of this. Knowing how much good tires change how well your car performs, I cannot fathom why anyone would choose to go with crappy tires to try to save a buck. They're too important to skimp on. Like computer, it's not obvious. Lots of people don't realize this. If you buy a nice computer, like a gaming computer, and you buy a separate monitor for it, go the extra mile and get a good monitor. Why? Monitors usually last, if you take care of them, for 2-3 actual computers' lifetimes. You may replace your computer every couple of years, or even after 5-6 years, but your monitor you'll probably use for a decade, especially if it's a really nice one. I paid as much for my current monitor as the entire gaming computer behind it. I've had it for about 5 years and will probably keep it another decade. My mom still uses a 40-inch TV I bought over a decade ago, and that thing has 0 dead pixels. I'm still amazed by it. Toshiba. Actually, computers are remarkably cheap if you don't want to play the latest AAA games. A good Sandy Bridge, Ivy Bridge system can be had for less than €100 second-hand. If you equip it with an SSD and max out the RAM, it's totally adequate. A couple of years ago I bought a second-hand i5 2500K system with a dead GPU for €50. The GPU was actually fixable by reflowing it in the oven, but I wanted a newer one anyway. Also got an SSD and some extra RAM as the machine only came with 8 GB and would run out of memory when compiling C++ projects on all cores. When I then saw someone selling an i7 3770 for €30, I just couldn't resist the upgrade for some extra threads. I originally just thought of this as an intermediate machine because I needed a computer and wanted to wait out the next generation. But now I didn't feel the need to upgrade with the time doing on it. Maybe when Alder Lake, Zen 4, DDR5 comes around. But then again, I now feel like buying a new computer is such a waste of money when second-hand components are just so much cheaper. Not to mention the premium you pay the first half year right after the release. I buy $odd 200 work boots that last me about 2 comfortable years, whereas my dad used to buy cheap $50-80 boots that would only last 6 months before it's busted up. Not only that, his feet are covered in thick and hard calluses that cause him constant pain while my feet are still soft. Thankfully his working years are over because I never got my point across to him to spend more on quality work boots. Edit, I only buy steel blue boots now. They are an Australian brand, so I'm not sure if you can get them overseas. A really good quality winter coat or jacket. To me, it's definitely worth the investment if you live in a country that gets cold winters. Here in Ireland it doesn't snow much in winter due to us being a small island, but we get very cold winters and very wet ones, so you get really cold rain. Paying extra for a really good quality Warm and waterproof coat makes such a difference if you're out and about a lot like I am. It pays for itself because it can last you years. I'm due a new one this year, got 5 years out of my last one and it's still good. But I've lost a significant amount of weight this past year and it's much too big for me now. Funny thing is for me, 18 years ago I walked into a thrift surplus store and purchased a legitimate wool Swiss Army surplus trench coat, and still use it regularly in the winter. It's warm as hell, has a few rips, but holds up really well for the age, and although it can get heavy if it gets really wet, doesn't really absorb moisture well, so even in terrible winter storms I stay dry. I don't think I could use any other coat at this point. I've had it over half my life and used it every single winter since I bought it. And the funny part is, I paid $13 for it. We had an issue in our house, where the pipes would occasionally do a loud bang and then no hot water for 20 minutes to 4 hours, until another bang and it came back. We called the water heater guy as that's what I figured was wrong. He walked in, looked at our water heater and said, "Nope, not the water heater. I can tell from here that it's fine. That is some other issue. Best you call a plumber." Called one plumber, who wasn't sure, but replaced the valve that was a bit leaky and hoped for the best. Didn't help. Called a second plumber, and I was able to recreate the issue with him. He said that's got to be the hot water tank, probably a valve issue. Called the water tank guys back. New guy came out, I explained it, and without even looking at the tank, he told me what's wrong and what he had to do to fix it. Fixed a bad valve, and we never had an issue since. First guy should be fired. His cocky attitude cost me 2 plumbers. I used to be fairly hardcore about getting the best deals, but I've grown out of it for the most part. I will say there are some exceptions. For example, I booked a one-way from Denver to San Salvador, intending to fly home in northern Mexico, for $100. I had a red-eye from Denver to Fort Lauderdale and then an 8-hour layover before my next leg to San Salvador on Spirit. Not the most comfortable sleeping in the airport, but manageable. The best option was flying United via Houston, but it was an absurd $500-600 for a one-way ticket. That being said, especially with international flights, if you're willing to tough out some bullshit and shit to your airlines, you can often save hundreds of dollars, which is a big deal for lower earners like me. Oh yes, definitely. I moved to a building, 7th floor, no elevator. Told my girlfriend I am not moving by myself, so we got a van and 2 movers. All we had to do was be there. I helped of course with the carrying, but within an hour we were done. Everything was in our apartment. Gave them a super nice tip which they loved, and I felt good afterwards knowing I didn't have to break my back or worry about 5-6 trips myself. Last time we moved they sent 3 small young men. Like stature isn't strength, but the one thing we really wanted someone to take care of for us was moving our big sofa. They weren't strong enough to carry it or get it into the elevator with me and my spouse's help. Honestly was the most annoying moment of our move. How does this happen? I was even super duper clear with the person who set up the appointment that we had a big sofa that was tough to move. Oh yeah, no problem. They handle stuff like that all the time. Whoever they were, wasn't the guys they sent out. Greater than underscore. I live in Mexico. The national cinema chain, Cinépolis, often has 2 whole movie houses in each location. One Islander standard, run-of-the-mill movie theater with 30 rows of stadium seating, while the other theater is Simple VIP, which features reclining leather seats, USB charging ports, heated seats, around 30 seats total, and table service, food and alcohol. Reminds me of Alamo Drafthouse Cinemas in the USA. But these are nicer in my opinion. Husband and I always pay the extra pesos for the VIP theater for comfort, plus there are rarely issues with other patrons who also pay for the VIP theater. Quiet people who really want to see the movie and won't be chatting or constantly getting out of their seats through the entire movie. The price difference between the 2 theaters really isn't that much, so it's a small thing we always pay for. Tools. If you are earning a living with them, You want something totally reliable and is not going to break and work properly every time. They say a cheap man pays twice as much in the long run. I bought up a set of Ryobi power tools for work and for DIY at home. They are pretty good. But when I was on site and found the batteries take 3 hours to charge, I don't have that kind of time. Also, the hammer drill didn't always hammer. I'm a Milwaukee boy now and I am completely satisfied. TLDR, always buy the best that you can afford. Hell, even headphones on the cheaper end of the nice headphone spectrum are miles beyond cheap and crappy ones. I have a pair of Shure SR-H840 over-the-ear cans for when I can sit down at home and do something like drawing or whatever, and a pair of Shure C215 Bluetooth in-ear monitors that I use at work, and while they're not the newest or best around, they are perfectly serviceable for my needs and they sound great to me. The over-ears ran me about $300 and the in-ears were about $90, so nearly $400, but as far as headphones go, that is pretty damn cheap. Hobby supplies. Every hobby I've ever tried has some real dog shit entry-level gear that most people either buy and grow out of really fast or don't realize their potential particularly quickly and lose interest. However, if you buy, rent quality mid-tier stuff to start out, you end up with a much better experience overall and progress much faster and get a truer reflection of the hobby. This is true for musical instruments, archery, longboarding, sailing, fishing, painting, brewing, gaming. The thing is, there is a reason for that. Most people flake out of their hobbies fast, or go through a bunch finding one they love. Chances are if you try it with the $80 Mickey Mouse kit and don't fall in love, you're not gonna. My wife wanted to get into painting and had this same idea. Skip the garbage and go right to professional paints and a $600 franchise. In all, a few grand in. The only upside, I suppose, is the professional stuff held its value a little when we wiped off the dust and resold it. My dad's massive hobby when I was growing up was our farm. It about broke even, but never would have worked as a proper income stream. He always bought ancient, second, third, sixth-hand tools and equipment at auctions and yard sales, some well over a century old. As he's gotten on in years and his financial situation has improved, we've slowly managed to convince him that time is worth more than money, and, if he really wants to be able to enjoy his hobby, he needs equipment that he can reliably assume will work when he needs it and do the job quickly and efficiently. He can't spend more time keeping a tractor running than actually running it. My niece just turned 18, said she was going to get a tattoo tomorrow. I said, really? Where? She said she didn't know. Anywhere she could get it done that same day. I say pretty much anywhere you go where you can get the tattoo you want the same day isn't going to give you one you'll be really happy with. She says she doesn't care, just really wants one. I say you'll have it forever. What's a few days? Then I said, I'll tell you what. Why don't you look through the tons of artists in the city's books and find one whose work you really love? I'll take you, and I'll even pay for you to get it as a birthday present. Then she said no, that's fine, she's already waited long enough. Guess who has a mediocre tattoo of a very standard design on her forearm now? I was an optician for a couple of years and this was something I always had to convince people of. Yes, it's $200 more. But you wear them 16 plus hours a day, every day, for at least a year before getting a new pair. People would inevitably get the cheaper option, wear them for a month, then come back and have to pay significantly more to get the better lenses. Yes, opticians are salespeople, but we are often licensed or certified, educated on the industry and materials, and want the best option for our patient. My time. I used to always try to save money while traveling until I realized I was wasting hours and adding stress to my life. Sure, the bus is $100 cheaper but it's 3 hours longer, doesn't leave when or from where you want, and is a miserable ride. Pay for the flight. I've seen this shift with little things too, splurging for an Uber if it's make my trip simpler or even paying to have something done in my apartment building. We have laundry and cleaning services, if I'm stressing about getting it done. It's nice to save money but not at the cost of being a miserable ball of stress. Edit. I just eventually came to view stress and wasted time as a cost, even if it doesn't necessarily show up on my balance sheet. This goes with so many things in life. Saving money is great, but you can't take it with you when you're dead, and many people who inherit money don't invest it. They use it almost right away. Not all, but a lot. I think like you do. I like to save money, but sometimes my time is more important. I own a home and have a guy that comes by every other week to mow the lawn. I own a push mower. He uses a zero-turn riding mower. He literally gets the entire yard done, with weed whacking, in about 35-45 minutes. It takes me a few hours on a Saturday or Sunday to do it. It's completely worth the money to me since I work 40-50 hours a week and would rather spend that time with my sons since I don't see them often during the week. I shit you not. Had a short trip once, learned that a journey is all about the friend that you bring. You bring shitty friend, you get a shitty holiday. Brought a somewhat stingy friend. Everything is monetary for him, even the basic stuff, and always picky even when it's slightly higher price. Instead of riding the cable car, decided to hike instead. Not even halfway and we all already out of breath and cancel the hike. Wanna eat tasty food, but don't wanna pay a cent higher. So we went to a local restaurant with not even a proper lighting. We ate outside under gloomy moonlight, with smoke from the grill blew to our face. Wanna go shopping, but he check and compare every item with online prices. Even a single cent higher will not buy it. He went out of the mall empty-handed. Edit. To further elaborate on the hiking things, we were all in jeans, short-sleeve polo shirts with only slippers, Crocs, no socks on. This hiking place is in Southeast ASEAN. The sun was almost at the top of our head when we start the hike, with no proper gear and shit. This guy just go, mate, the cable car is too expensive. Let's just hike instead. Mind you, the cost for the cable car is RM50, it's Malaysia, so it's around $11.80, including the return trip. There are 2 mountain peak. The cable car go through one peak and then on towards another. We were on the first peak, and the guy was convinced we can hike all the way to the second peak, just to save money. Edit 2. Regarding the shopping things, we were at a mall that mostly sells chocolates that you rarely can find elsewhere. And it's all tax-free. It's literally the best place to buy souvenirs and snacks to your friend back home, but he decided that it's better to buy online and give that to his friends instead. I understand on the mentality about that it was his money. He decide on what he wanna spend on, but he was hovering behind me like, oh, you wanna buy that? It's 20 cents cheaper online though at every few minutes we spend there. Can I just add? A stretchy comfy compressing shape plus sports bra, that is not crossed over or racer back, can be miles more comfortable than the most expensive, well-fitting wired bra, if you're out of proportion. As a 10G, 32G, I suffered for close to a decade with dozens of excessively expensive, expertly fitted, brand-name bras. Ditching the cups and wires for something flexible and supportive was life-changing. We get our maple syrup from a veteran in his mid-90s. He tapes maple trees in the hearts of everyone who knows him. He lives in a small cabin on the way to my lake house, in the rural north. He is known among people as the best maple syrup guy. It's his passion in life, to cultivate maple syrup and maple products. He's been doing it since the 1950s. Last time I was there he'd recently had a quadruple bypass. Showed us the scar. He was like, I thought I was a gunner, but I guess it wasn't my time yet. He's also refused to be a sellout, and does it for love. It is expensive, but still about 1/2 of the cost of buying pure maple from a specialty store. He also has a box where, if he's not around, you can just take the product and leave cash or a check, and trusts people not to rip him off. That was a tangent, but he is so cool I couldn't help it. I just cut my own hair now. It's free and it looks like I want it to look about 90% of the time. I'll give myself a shitty haircut every once in a while, but typically my hair looks fine. I got tired of people fucking up my curly hair. I almost always had a bad haircut because for some bizarre ass reason people in cosmetology school aren't taught how to cut textured or curly hair. I did some research, bought a decent set of clippers, and hacked away. It actually ended up not being half bad, but then I got better. I'm very happy with my hair now. Cutting my own hair also really came in handy when COVID struck and closed down all the salons and barbershops in California for a year. I was always well groomed throughout lockdown. I don't want to ever pay for another haircut again.